Okay, so what I want to go over is how to graph an inequality, okay? An inequality is just a little bit different than an equality or an equation just because of the sign that separates the y and the x. Okay, so what you're going to do is the first step to graph an inequality is the same first step as graphing an irregular equation. You want to locate where or identify where the m is, or the slope. Remember, the slope is that number that is connected to your x, or that is multiplying to the x, which in this case is negative 8 over 3. Then you want to identify the b, or the y-intercept. That's going to be a number that's added or subtracted onto the end of the equation, or the inequality. So b is equal to, you always want to include that sign, so negative 3. Okay, and the first step, if you recall, to graph an equation is graphing the y-intercept. So you go on your y-axis and find negative 3. That is your b, and graphing a point there. And then what we're going to do is you're going to use our slope to graph the next point. Okay, remember slope is going to be, so let me remind you what slope is. Slope is going to be rise over run. Okay, rise over run. So if you recall, we always want to take the top one number first. So if that is negative 8, we're going to be going down 1, 2, all the way to 8, and then we'll be going right. But we're going off the graph, so we're going to do the opposite of that. We're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And since our slope is negative, we have to make sure, since we went positive on one of the numbers, we have to go negative on the other number. And so that's going to be negative 1, 2, 3 to the left. And we're going to plot another point there. And that's all the points we can plot on this graph because it's not big enough. So now we need to decide what kind of line do we want to connect these dots with. Is it going to be a dashed line, or is it going to be a solid line? Well, if you remember, if you have a inequality sign like this or like that with a less than or greater than with no line, that is going to be a dashed line. Okay, dashed line. And then if you have a less than or equal to or a greater than or equal to, that is going to be a solid line. Okay, so in this case, let's go ahead and circle that inequality sign there. So that means that it's going to be a solid line. So we are going to connect these dots with a solid line. So if you think about it, if it has a solid line, like this right here, solid line or a solid line, that means there's a solid line on your graph. Okay, now the next difference from an equation to an inequality is that we need some kind of graphing, or I'm sorry, some kind of shading. Okay, so we're either going to shade over here, which is below the line, or we're going to shade over here, which is above the line. Okay, so the easiest way for me to do this is to just pick a point anywhere on the graph that does not fall on the line. So the easiest one for me, if the line does not go through 0, 0, is just selecting 0, 0 for your coordinate. Okay, so I'm going to write 0, 0 over here, 0, comma, 0. All right, and so we're going to rewrite this inequality. Y is less than or equal to negative 8 over 3x minus 3. And we're just plugging in 0 for the y, 0 for the x, and seeing if it's going to be true or if it's going to be false. So 0 is less than or equal to negative 8 over 3. Instead of times x, you got times 0 now. And then minus 3. And then when you get good at this, you can just do this usually in your head because 0 times anything is 0. So on the left side, you're still left with 0 is less than or equal to negative 8 over 3 times 0 is just going to be 0. And then you still have minus 3. So now you're left with 0 is less than or equal to 0 minus 3 is negative 3. So is this true or is this false? Well, you can see that 0, the inequality sign is facing towards negative 3, so it's saying that negative 3 is bigger. We know that is false because any negative number is smaller than 0. Okay, so this is a false statement. So you do not want to shade where 0, 0 is, which is on the above the line or on the right side of the line. You want to shade everything on the other side. So we're going to grab pencil and just shade everything below because we know 0, 0 cannot be in the solution set. So as long as we graphed our line right, we know that our shading is right as well. Okay, let's look at one more example. We're going to look at y is greater than negative 2 over 5x minus 4. Okay, and I'm going to show you a little trick with the shading on this one so it goes a little bit quicker for you. Okay, so the first step, just like we did in the last problem, we're going to locate the m, or identify the m, and that is going to be number connected to your x, which is negative 2 over 5. And then also locate your b, which is going to be your y-intercept. So the b here is going to equal -4. Okay. All right, so graphing that -4 first on your y-axis is going to be -4 there. And then -2/5, remember rise over run, so we're going to go -1, 2. Then since we went the negative direction, we got to go the positive direction with the 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And plotting a point there. And just so we have a little more one more point to graph, we're going to go up 1, 2, and then to the left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And when you get good at this, you don't have to do the little squiggly lines anymore. You can just go ahead and count with your pencil or your pen. Okay, and now we need to distinguish, is it going to be dashed or is it going to be solid? So if you recall, in the other problem, we wrote up here, less than or greater than is dashed, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to is solid. So since this inequality sign does not have a line underneath it, that means that is going to be a dashed line. And a dashed line just looks like a broken line or a bunch of dashes drawn in the shape of a line. Okay, so there's our line. And then, like I said before, I'm going to show you an easier way to distinguish shading if you do not like the method that I used in the last problem. So all you do is you look at, is the line, or is the inequality sign greater than, or is it less than? Okay, so let me change my color here. If you have a less than or a less than or equal to, that means below the line. Below. If you have a greater than or a greater than or equal to, that means above the line. So a line like this, it's really easy to see above or below because it's a little more flat. The steeper lines sometimes can be tricky. So what you want to say is if y is greater than, that means y is greater than the y-intercept. So the y-intercept here is -4, which is right here. And which numbers are greater than that? Well, that's above it. So all of this is going to be shaded, all above your dashed line. Okay, so that completes graphing inequalities. Thank you.